that? Like, what were some of those books that started influencing and shaping your life?
Um, I I read a book by Lawrence Hill, and it's known by two names. It's known by the Book of Negroes and Someone Knows My Name. And I found it through Someone Knows My Name before I found out about the second name and everything. And I think that's where kind of like my love for historical fiction came along. Like it was so intricate to the point that I'm just like, this has to be based on a real story. And then I found out it was all fake. And I was just like, wow, okay, but I want more stories like this. And then I read The Hunger Games right before the first movie came out. And I'm
Okay.
just like, I need YA dystopian. I was hunting down every dystopian book I could find. I was just like, I need it, I need it, I need it. And then, yeah, a few years later, I found the selection and Red Queen. But I think for like my love of YA, I think definitely started with like The Hunger Games, and historical fiction started there. And there is this series by Aaron Watt called The Royals. I love it so much. It's like just YA contemporary. It is just teen drama wrapped up in just the most ridiculous storylines. But there's something about that book that I said, I am not letting this go. And I binged it. And every opportunity I had that book in hand. Like I had the entire series in hand. And at that point, I'm just like, I just know that YA was a favorite. And I think it was actually the pandemic that made me kind of like gravitate towards fantasy.
Oh, cool.
Just because I started to like, because obviously I knew YA fantasy. I started like, but then just regular fantasy that I started reading a bit more of in the pandemic. And I'm just like, okay, these are way more intense and they actually have more people dying. But wow, the storyline is great. So I had to give it a chance. And then also like YA thrillers I started to read in the pandemic as well. So classic Karen McManus. And I just like those were like my set genres from that point.
No, that's
So I think
good.
my genres change every now and then.
Right? Well, I think that is just like the life of the reader. You tend to read some books over here, then you kind of expand into a different territory, and you're surprised. Like you might read a fiction book that if you're a nonfiction reader and you're just like, whoa, this is the writing over here is a different type of style because
Yes.
it's more world building, it's more creative, and there's a lot to it. Where as a nonfiction book, you're usually getting a linear story in the sense of it might be someone's life, it's a biography or like that. So I do think the way we engage with reading is really unique. And speaking of that, just being because when did you move to Manchester in high school? You said
No, I moved to Manchester at the end of A levels. So I did high school and A levels back at home, and so I
okay.
came here for university straight up.
Oh, cool, cool. So, like, I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are, like international book culture. Like, how are books discussed and like integrated into the culture there?
I think, yeah, I think it's actually really, really interesting because you see like the culture in books. I haven't read like much British books, I think, because a lot of the authors I traditionally followed were American. So I would read more American books and you would see like the culture. If you're reading a book from a Black author, you'd see it in the dialogue that's written in the book, or even just like some small mentions about little things like our hair or even like just how we were raised. And you're just like, that's similar. And here, the lingo is different. The culture is different. Everything is different. Like being like when I first came here, I was just like, what did you just say? And then you see it in books as well. But even the way they interact with books here, like so many book fairs, so many book festivals, and I was just that's absolutely amazing as well. So I wasn't used to that. I don't think we had as much of that in the Caribbean. So that was actually a great part of moving here. Something new to experience. Like I actually like going to the book fairs and getting the opportunities to actually like meet some of the authors. I'm like, if you guys can find Turks and Caicos and go there, that'd be great. But that didn't happen a lot. But I got to go to a few talks and meet different authors and just collect cute bookish goodies, which,
Yeah,
a book lover cannot resist. And so I actually love like seeing the different ways that people actually engage with books because obviously books are like amazing. Like they're for storytelling, they're for recording histories. And I know like in different cultures you can see that. Like in Asia, like I know, like, you can see like from their, from past literature, it influences, the societal norms. Even from like indigenous culture, you can kind of see when you're reading indigenous books and how they speak about their culture, how storytelling was so important. And then now, you just get to witness it and indulge and experience it through books. So yeah, it's really amazing getting to experience the different sides of like the world through a book.
No, that's good. And when it comes to the curriculum, I know at least with us, we had to read like Great Gatsby and what else was it? Frankenstein and some of those books. What were the integrated books into your culture? Like whether it was when you're earlier days, or then what books were kind of in the curriculum when you're and now in Manchester?
That's interesting. I don't like, I was surprised to see like how books are so integrated. I guess from the readers I've seen in America to the readers I, have seen in the UK. Back at home, like it wasn't like that integrated into our curriculum unless you did English literature, which was an elective when you got to year 10. And
Oh,
so for our regular English classes, we did have books, but not as many. I read The Giver. I read To Kill a Mockingbird. So like we read like, the basic classics. But then when you got to English lit, they were reading everything. They had a different book every week, whereas us, we would have like a book per term or a book per year. So I don't think we like read as much. But one thing that they did integrate is in our actual timetable, there is a specific slot, like multiple days in the week dedicated to going to the library. Like you have to go, like you have to be in the library at that time reading a book. So I guess in that sense, like, yeah, giving us a bit more freedom to choose what we read, which is where we got to read, like, I guess, more fun books. But yeah, in terms of like integrating it into like doing book reports and all that, yeah, not much, I would say.
yeah. Where's like your go-to like bookstore in Manchester or even in like England as a whole? Like where do you like to go?
Waterstones is great because
Um,
Waterstones does not mind you. I think Waterstones is like the British equivalent of Barnes and Noble, I
yeah.
think it is. It's great because you get to go in there and they don't mind you really just reading the book while you're in there. Like, I think we all do it. We go in there and they have a cafe right in the back. So whether you have bought the book or not, you really just get to go sit and read. And it's also kind of cool. You kind of like meet people there just randomly. People, yeah, like people are just really friendly. I think Manchester is a really friendly city, by the way. And it is. So people will just come up, just say hi. Um, I've read that book. I think it's great, or this or that or the other. And I think one thing that I love about Manchester is that they'll have like random pop up like in like on the street, people selling like really, really old books or secondhand books. And so yeah, you be surprised like how you can really just get like a collection of goodies for like the cheapest price ever. I have quite a few Charles Dickens books that I bought for like £1 each, and they're from like the 80s. I was just like, these things are gorgeous. Like, why are you selling them so cheap? But just walking about, that happened to me a few times when I was in uni. And then close to the Arndale, which is like the mall in town, there's a bookstore as well that sells secondhand books completely, that I love stopping by as well. Honestly, I wouldn't even lie. I can't even tell you the name. I never look. I just know exactly where it's located. But yeah, so those are kind of like obviously I think the go-tos, and obviously online, Waterstones online or Amazon.
No, you sold me on Manchester. I really want to go out there because I
Right.
like I said, like I told you before, I've been to England. So I mean, yeah, I've been to England, countryside area, and then I've been to London. So just want to go more in the UK and see other places.
Oh,
But
Manchester's
speaking of
great.
that, yeah, like speaking of that, what's the book content creator scene like in Manchester or just England? Do you all connect a lot, or how's that work?
See, Manchester specifically, I would say it not as like moving, well, not to my knowledge, like I haven't like interacted with that many people, but in general in the UK, most content creators in general are like in London, so it doesn't matter what type of content you're creating, most time around they're in London, which can get difficult because a lot of times when there are any meetups or even any events that publishers are hosting, it will most likely be in London, and so you have to get a train, and that is not always
happening.
easy. Um, and yeah, so yeah, but obviously we live on in a digital world, so definitely have connected with a few creators on TikTok, which have been great. I've connected with there quite a few, and I think one time I just randomly, just to see where everyone was, I kind of just asked if anyone was in Manchester, and it was really interesting to see. Yeah, so I've connected with a few people, but not anyone in Manchester, to be honest, which is weird, I know.
Yeah, I think the book content creator meetups are really cool, just like the way you all can collaborate and that. So that's why I was wondering like how those
I
connections
would,
can work.
yeah, so yeah, I would really love to meet up in person. I'm a homebody, so to be
Yeah.
fair, they are probably out there, and I've never met them. There are definitely people in Manchester that I'm pretty sure I just have not met, but that's because I don't leave my house.
If you enjoyed that clip, make sure you head over to www.bookumapp.com to download our app so you can connect with your favorite bookish content creators, start conversations, and start your own book club.